So, hello and welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast or video or whoever, not whoever, but wherever you are. And I'm fucking pumped to introduce you to something new. As you can see in the background, you can see Amazon and you can see Blue Origin and you can see actually Trump and Wall Street up there, like there, not there. Yeah, never mind. So I can't do this. Yet. Can't do this yet. Never say, let's do it. No. You can see? Wait. Like there. In this line, the last word. Fucking great. And yeah, as you might can just think about it, we're going to talk about Jeff Bezos. And I do want to just get a little bit away from actually always just talking about book summaries. I do just want to just go through some articles as well, because I do believe that there are great articles, for example, on the businessinsider.com website. I'm actually on the Business Insider Nordic website, which seems to be, from the Scandinavian countries. And yeah, so this is an article about, it was some kind of an interview. I pretty much always like interviews because it's definitely great to, actually read them in terms of actually being able to kind of, follow them and actually just get a lot of stories because all these entrepreneurs or these famous people tell a lot of stories. And this is also something that I expect from this one. And storytelling is something that's incredibly great. And I think this is also something incredible to just show you certain things. And and this is just what I want to do. I want to go through these things, just add some things that I just talk about or think about at a certain time to maybe just add value to also what I'm just reading and whatsoever. So yeah, Jeff Bezos talked to us about leaving a steady Wall Street job to start Amazon, why his rocket company Blue Origin is his most important project, and what it's like to have Trump as your biggest critic actually. And this is an article by Matthias Döpfner, so definitely somebody from the Nordic countries, or even it could be German or German speaking actually, because of the Ö, like the O with the two dots on it, or above it actually. And something to say about it as well. I think it's from 2018. So actually some kind of quite 11 months ago, from the 28th of April 2018. But yeah, so this seems to be some kind of an interview. I do hope that you actually can read it, everything, because I see it is quite small. Let me just see. Let me just check. Yeah, it should be okay. I think it should be okay. But yeah, so Axel Springer or whatever it is called, I will say Axel Springer, CEO Matthias Matthias, I think it's actually Matthias Döpfner, sat down with Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos to talk about the early days of creating Amazon, what he has learned since then, and how he funds his rocket company Blue Origin, and what it is like when the President of the United States is your biggest critic actually. Actually German speaking person. So the sit down interview happened in Berlin, Germany, where Bezos received the Axel Springer Award 2018, and you can read the complete transcript of the talk below. It is definitely quite, as you can see, a very, very long article, and I would just highly recommend you, if this is something, or if it turns out to be something that's great, to just go through it yourself, because why not? But yeah, I'll start. I maybe get you pumped for going through it yourself, or actually watching maybe there's a video of it. I don't know, but for the sake of this video and of the podcast, I do just have to go through the transcripted version. So yeah, so Matthias Döpfner, Jeff, welcome to Berlin. And Jeff Bezos answers, thanks, it's great to be here. And yeah, I think I do not always have to say, what person is saying what, maybe I have. So Döpfner says, I have to tell you, when we were sitting in the first row just a couple of minutes ago, when the heartbeat was there, Jeff looked at me and I was breathing in and out, and he looked at me and asked, Matthias, are you nervous? I said, yes, I'm always nervous and on occasions like that. And he said, so I am. I said, really? The richest man in the world is nervous because he receives the Axel Springer Award, so be a bit forgiving. So be a bit forgiving. We are both nervous. Jeff, we are so glad to really celebrate you tonight. Most importantly, apart from all the reasons that we heard, because you are a role model for other young founders, entrepreneurs who really have great ideas, crazy ideas, unconventional ideas, and need encouragement to simply do it and go for it. And you have shown that to the world, so that it is really for me the most important thing. And in that context, the first question you used to work in New York as an investment banker, which is something I didn't know, but very interesting. And I just before tried to some kind of connect the kind of similarities between being on Wall Street or in Wall Street, whatever, and having Amazon, and what kind of advantages he might have had through his earlier job and so on. But I just was quite interrupted in the process because of actually doing the show. But yeah, where did I fucking stop? Blah 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 blah. So New York as an investment banker. So an investment banker is actually the exact opposite of an entrepreneur. He is delegating risk to other people. And basically, how did you find out, or how did you think that you should move from investment banking to really launch a company? His answer is great to kind of spoil you, because this definitely just shows something, for me at least. But yeah, I'm gonna read it. So I think I would always wanted to do it ever since I was a kid. Had the idea every time I look at something. I was a kid, had the idea every time I look at something. It looks like it could be improved. And this was then for me the point where I just had to say, okay, he just really took the opportunity of Amazon through something that bothered him himself, just something that pissed him off as well, and just something that he wanted to solve also for himself, because he has seen that on the market there is something that needs to be improved. He just knew how to do it, and he took the chance, and you can see, okay, it worked out quite fine, definitely quite fine. But yeah, there is something wrong with it, so I go through it like, how could this restaurant be better? So I've always had that kind of idea. By the way, before we really get into this, how about this amazing production that you and your team have put together? Actually something amazing, that he actually compliments the other person, which is totally great, I think, and this just really shows you, or shows other people, even though you are the richest person on the fucking planet, you're just still a person, you're just still human, you're just still very, very likable. And even though I think that Bezos isn't maybe the nicest boss, and he just really is a tough boss, I think I do also think that on another hand, he can he could pretty be empathetic and just a really great person. Blah 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 blah. And this is truly incredible for its originality, like these boxes that you are filming live. That's just crazy cool. So thank you. Truly, it's incredible. But I think the great thing about humans in general is we are always improving things, and we are also improving ourselves all the time. Through adaptation. I think I wouldn't just have the abilities and wouldn't have the some kind of characteristics, not in terms of my character, but in terms of my physical characteristics 100, 200, 300 years ago, because we just have adapted to the conditions we are having right now. And so entrepreneurs and investors, they follow their curiosity, and they follow their passions, and they figure something out, and then they figure out how to make it better, and they are never satisfied. And you need to harness, in my way, you need to harness that energy primarily on your customers instead of on your customers instead of on your competitors. And so I sometimes see companies, and even young small startup companies, entrepreneurs go Avry, what actually Avry means, I don't know, it's AWRY. They start to pay more attention to their competition than they do to their customers. And I think that in big major industries that might be a winning approach in some cases, kind of close following, let other people be the pioneers and go down the blind alleys. There are so many things that are new, inventive company tries, won't work, and so those mistakes and errors and failures do cost real money. I do believe, and I do just really think that a lot of companies really just kind of focus on the competition, what the competition is doing, how they can surpass their competition, rather than just going for the customers they are already having. Because your customer is the king, and if you're maybe too much focusing on the competition, you're just losing track of your customers. If he didn't just point it out right away, but I do just think, and this is also the way he went with Amazon. He just gave a fuck about what the competition is doing. He just knew, okay, I know my customer and I know what they need, and I will do what they need. And this is just a very simple equation. There is a need, you kind of solve that need or satisfy that need, and you get something out of it, and everybody's happy. And I think this is just what he did. This is also something that Gary Vee himself said, that it is just incredible that a lot of companies aren't just really into their customers in terms of actually paying attention to them, but actually Amazon is. And at his point of view, Amazon did a lot of things right in terms of actually just knowing their consumers and understanding them and just giving them what they basically want. Which was then something incredible for me, and also just to see it there as well. Always great to just connect a few points together so that you can actually, have, a little bit of a wholer in terms of, like whole fruits or whole grain or whatever thing in your hand. But yeah. And so maybe in a mature industry where growth rates are slow and change is very slow, but as you see in the world more and more, there aren't very many mature industries. Change is happening everywhere. You see in the automobile industry with self-driving cars, but you could go right down the line of every industry and you would see it. Definitely also I think there are a lot of fucking industries where a lot is changing. Fortunately, I think, and especially in the whole technology area, I'm just really pumped about that. And if you've just been following me for a little bit, you know that I just really like to go forward and see, okay, what may be there in the future, what technology can I just some kind of expect maybe, and which is just something very great for me. I'm just very, very pumped for seeing, okay, the flying cars and whatever it will be in the future. Therefore, I'm just very glad that I'm actually only 18, that I just really have a fucking lot of time in front of me. But yeah. But I would actually also say that there are just very, very less amount of industries where change isn't happening that fast. We're just before trying to, maybe the whole electricity and the whole electricity production thing is some kind of a plateau, I think, because we're using nuclear just technology to gain energy or to generate electricity, or we use solar power, and I just see that this might be one of the reasons why Elon Musk actually decided to make his roof tiles. If you might know, he did some roof tiles which actually are solar panels, but they are not looking like it. And therefore, you just have, just really normal roof tiles, and they just absorb a lot of solar power. And I think they're even better than all the other ones as well. And it's just great. Another few dots combined and connected. Always great. But yeah, Döpfner, do you have any idea where your ambition really comes from and what was driving you? Bezos' answer is, I really don't know. I've been passionate about certain things forever, and I fell in love with computers in 4th grade, which was actually something that which kind of astonished me in terms of, it actually surprised me, because I didn't actually know that he was such into computers. I think he was only just some kind of entrepreneurial guy who just, I don't know, but it would make sense because he started Amazon himself, and yeah, it would make sense. I got very lucky. My elementary school had a teletype that got connected to a mainframe computer that some business in downtown Houston donated a little bit of computer time to. You can picture these teletypes, they had the punch tape and they had a 300 baud modem, and you would dial up the phone and you would put in the cradle. And so we had sometimes sharing on the mainframe computer, and none of the teachers knew how to use it, so me and two other kids stayed after school and sort of figured out how to do it, and kind of taught ourselves programming from books. I think one thing is I got very lucky early in my childhood. He just really also just underlines it once more. Look, we all get gifts. We get certain things in our life that we are very lucky about, and one of the most powerful ones is who your early role models are. Totally. If your early role models are just a piece of shit, but you do not know because you maybe don't have the perspective or the just broad view, then you're some kind of a fucked position, because not good. Yeah. Daphna, it was your grandfather. And it actually was, and there are very great stories about him and his grandfather and why he actually loved his grandfather, not mother, sorry for saying maybe grandmother. And in a lot of cases, as I'm just reading the next few lines, it was actually, but actually on the other hand, the reason why he liked him so much is that he actually used to really repair everything, which was one of the reasons I think. He used to repair everything that was broken, so whether it was a fence, whether it was something more difficult. I hope I remember the whole story just correctly. And throughout this whole article, there's also one picture of this certain conversation he actually had with his older brother, which was then an interview or some kind of a talk show. He was on a stage with his brother, and basically I think quite all the time he was actually talking about his grandfather. And yeah, but let's see what his answer is. It was in a big sense, yeah, so he just validated that his grandfather had a lot of impact on him. My mom and dad put my grandfather so my mom and dad but my grandfather too. My mom had me when she was 17 years old, and she was still in high school in Albuquerque, New York, Mexico, and this is in 1964. I can assure you that being a pregnant teenager in high school was not cool in Albuquerque, New York, and New Mexico at that time, so it was difficult for her. My grandfather went to bat for her, they tried to kick her out of school, and they are incredible. So the gift I had is I had this incredible family. And I do believe that there are certain types of people, some just really like their family and like just in general families. I, on the other hand, just think, I don't know, it kind of not feels too important for me having family. I think it's more about actually having people around you, whether it's, I do still really love my mother, to be honest, and my brother and my sister. These are really these people that that I'm very glad for just having around me. But especially I like to just have around all my friends around me and all these people that I just love so much. And this is just an incredible feeling for me. And I'm just very proud, not proud, but also glad and grateful for me having so great friends, and friends that are not kind of negative for me. So they still, some of them might be just doing things that I wouldn't do, but it's not like, okay, they're completely shit and they're completely doing something that I'm not quite, that I'm quite interested in or something. Dupfner, could you describe a little bit the role of your grandfather? Because John has mentioned it and I think it was really important. Bezos' answer is, it was super important for me, and I spent an unusual amount of time with my grandparents, especially with my grandfather on the ranch. So actually they had a ranch in South Texas, it should be or could be, and And here on this kind of presentation or kind of not conference, it was just a talk, I think. He also showed some pictures of the ranch. Actually, it quite looked great. Yeah, totally. Um, Especially with on a ranch. So he had a ranch in South Texas, and I would spend my summers there for age 4 to 16. And when I was 4, they were taking me for the summer to kind of give my parents a break, because they were so young and it was useful. I was a handful, I'm sure. Anyway, he created the illusion for me when I was 4 years old that I was helping him on the ranch, which of course could not have been true, but I believed it. And then by the time I was 16, of course, I was actually helping him on the ranch. I can fix prolapsed cattle. We did all of our own veterinary work. Veterinary work, sorry. Some of the cattle even survived, and we fixed windmills and laid water pipelines and built fences and barns and fixed the bulldozer that you guys talked about and so on. And so one of the things that's so interesting about the lifestyle and about my grandfather is he did everything himself. So I'm quite sure, great nice that he actually points him out, he actually did all himself, and this was actually one of the things that he admired about him so much. And I do quite understand it, because actually being able to do so much on yourself or for yourself is just great, because you do not need anybody else but yourself, which is totally something great, isn't it? I think it's quite great. But yeah. The next question. So what does it mean, no delegation? Being resourceful, I think. If there's a problem, there's a solution. And of course, as you mature and get into the business world and anything you do on a team, you very quickly realize that it's not about just your own resourcefulness. It's about team resourcefulness and how does that work. But that attitude of my grandfather was he was fully of wisdom. So there's ... He was fully of wisdom. John mentioned the story about the words my grandfather gave to me at one point. Of it's harder to be kind. It's harder to be kind than clever. That story, the slightly longer version of that story, because this was very powerful wisdom, is that I made my grandfather burst into tears, and the way I did it was we were driving on a long road trip, and she was a chain smoker, and I was probably, I don't know, 10 years old, so this was around 1974, and it was in a period of time where there were heavy radio advertisements, sort of anti-smoke radio advertisements, trying to convince people to stop smoking. Actually, a very, very long sentence. I hope you did understand it. I'm quite thin myself because I was quite, just into reading, to be honest. But yeah. So, and one of the advertisements had this figure in it that said something like, every puff of a cigarette takes so many minutes of your life. I think it was 2 minutes, but I can't remember. So I sat there in the backseat and this long car ride and calculated how many years she had taken off of her life. And in my 10-year-old mind, I had been extremely clever to do this. And so when I was finished with my arithmetic, I proudly announced to her how many years she had taken off of her life, and I got a reaction. I did not expect, with her bursting into tears. So my grandfather stopped the car and he took me out of the car, and I had no idea what was about to happen because he had never said a cross word to me, and I thought he might actually be angry with me, but he wasn't. He took me out so we had some privacy from her, and he said these incredible words. He said, "You're gonna figure out one day that it is harder to be kind than clever." Yeah, I do really believe that these are just words. I really think that, and this also showed me that just these things that you remember for your fucking whole life long do just implement some kind of emotion and or are based on emotions. And there you can totally see it. And this whole thing was just based on emotions. And he just said, I think it was his grandmother, I hope. I don't know, I didn't just, get along with the whole text. I hope you did. But to maybe recap it, she was smoking, chain smoker, and he actually heard a radio advertisement and where they were saying, okay, there's a certain amount of time you're just taking off every time you're just, taking not taking a nip, but taking a puff from your cigarette or cigar, whatever it was. I think it's cigarette. And then he was calculating it, and then he said it to her mother, his mother, or to his grandmother. I don't know. Sorry. And then actually, his grandfather stopped it, took him out, and said to him, "Okay, often it is harder to be kind than being clever." And what I wanted to say initially was that you can there definitely see, okay, if there is some emotions involved, you can definitely remember it. Because most often, if you remember something for a very, very long period of time, it is quite like, 80% that there is some kind of emotional base behind it or fundamental behind it. And actually something that Tony Robbins said, and as I just some kind of understood it and knew it, I was kind of amazed because it is actually true. All these things that some kind of are have something to do or some kind of a connected with some emotions are those things that I do remember. If it's a breakup or if it was a breakup or not a breakup, but if a girl didn't want me quite, or something in this kind of happened where a lot of feelings were involved, I just know these things. And this is just interesting to see. But the next question is, Dapfna, wonderful. Actually, your brother also plays an important role and you have a very good relationship. Is it actually true that he is still a firefighter? Bezos' answer is, he's a volunteer firefighter in Scarsdale, New York. He's also the funniest person I know. When I'm with him, I'm just laughing continuously. First of all, I'm a good audience. I laugh easily, but he is really, really very funny, and my sister too. We are all very close, and I have my mother to thank for that because she worked hard to make sure as we grew up that grew up to make sure as we grew up that we stayed close together. And she takes all the grandkids for 1 week every summer so that me and my sister and our spouses can go on a trip together. So we end up spending a lot of time together. And this is actually the picture that I was talking about. So to kind of close it up maybe. I love this fucking function to just really show you just some tiny things like something like this. And it's just amazing because you can just see it more easily if, maybe it's a little bit too small and whatsoever. It's just a little bit nicer. But yeah, the left, it's actually, the informations are beneath it. It is a kind of an interesting interview. He definitely laughs a lot. So Jeff Bezos, he definitely just really laughs a lot, which is totally incredible. Sometimes it kind of seems to be fake, to be honest. But it's just nice to have somebody around or to have someone that is making you laugh so fucking much. And I do think this is it with this one, because the next question and the answer would be, a little bit too long so that it's not quite fitting into the schedule. So therefore I'm quite, passing it right now. I do hope that you kind of enjoyed this, this different approach of the episode. Maybe you did get something out of it. I'm always getting kind of crippled if I do just understand, and this is also something that I'm quite feared of right now, that I do just realize, okay, there might not be too much for you in this, or you might have not getting anything out of it. And I hope it's definitely not the case in here. Maybe I'll do something like this again. Maybe I'll actually read through the whole thing again, just write the important things out, so that I can actually start to produce my own shit and not actually kind of being based and relying on actual content I'm finding on the internet, which might be very important for me because, as you might know, I'm from Europe, I'm from Austria, and there will be another law in terms of the internet, the Article 13 or Paragraph 13 or whatever it is called, which will change a lot in the internet business, in the internet way. And actually did just get a message today that this is some kind of proved and validated that this will come and whatsoever, which is not great, because a lot of things change and everybody, I do just have to read through an article on this because I'm not really educated in this space, definitely not, and I do just really have to look it up and see what it is all about and what I can do about it, and how I can actually prevent myself from getting into any just fucked up place through this kind of shit. But yeah, I hope you get something out of it, and I wish you the best. Actually, I remember the outro. To actually change it up once more, to actually be in another environment. Okay, you see, this is the end. The episode will be just, the end is near. But yeah, I hope you get something out of it. I hope that you're getting the best health, wealth, happiness, and success, but especially happiness. And yeah, still don't forget about thinking about your legacy and giving back to people, because these two things are, at least for me, important, and at least one thing, which is giving back to the people, should be important for you as well. With that being said, I see you. If this is actually uploaded on Friday, I'll see you tomorrow definitely, or I see you today, could also be the truth. But yeah, the thing is, I'll see you.